please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
Well, I have with me Dr. Reddy, former Governor, Reserve Bank of India, and I have caught him at the Tata Literature Festival, where he just had almost a clash of the titans conversation with Mr. Chidambaram and Naina Lal on the state of the economy. Well, Dr. Reddy, I'm really glad you have taken time out for us on CNBC TV18. The first question is, we've got this upgrade from Moody's, and yet we are at the moment in GDP terms, only in GDP terms, lower than what we were last year. So what exactly is Moody's telling us? Are you in agreement with them on the upgrade?
No, I think basically many of the reforms undertaken in the recent past had two implications. One, some sort of disruption in the short term and potential for very good things in the medium term. So I think Moody's in a way is trying to say that though there is some disruption now, it's going to result in good things, and perhaps in a way strengthening the forces in favor of good things type of thing. Okay. But I think it's really a potential which they interpret is likely to materialize.
How would you interpret it? Do you think the steps undertaken, and if you can even tell me which steps,
No, I think basically definitely the GST issue. But more important is the ecosystem like insolvency code. See, the fundamental institutional underpinnings that should strengthen the ecosystem of finance
are in place?
Are in place. Or at least there's an attempt to do that in a big way, which was pending for a long time. And so therefore I think even GST, it has been in the making for 17 years. So obviously there are a lot of difficulties. Otherwise we should wait for 17 years. So there are difficulties, but they are prepared to face it. So I think in that sense, Moody's rating represents a hope which is it is backed by reasonable expectations.
Okay. Well, can I say that these reasonable expectations would be a higher tax to GDP ratio, both because of GST and also because they've linked PAN to bank accounts?
But that is only one element. You see, this is an important step in what I may call two steps. One is formalization of the informal sector. And second is the constitutional objective of having one market, one country, which was originally like that, and we are not supposed to have any barriers. It took such a long time to remove.
So you think both these...
No, it's a fundamental reform. All over it would have been difficult in any case, and they require certain amount of determination and boldness. And well, there's a trip up is inevitable when you want to do something important.
So your expectation is that not only will there be more people in the formal system and therefore more taxes, but also a more efficient economy?
Not only more taxes. See, once you come into a formal sector, there are many things which fall into place. So it's only not the income tax, the contract obligations, we got contract system. Earlier it was informal sector, faith in each other, trust in each other. It's at some level. See, basically, let me put it this way. These are institutional mechanisms which will take you to a middle income country. See, the institutional, you can always grow from low income to middle income, but to stay there and continue and move on, you require a different of interest. Otherwise, it's also called middle income trap.
Okay.
Many in the world, there's a concept in the economy, middle income trap. So if you want to get out of the middle income trap, these are required.
These are the institutions. Okay. This is extremely hopeful, the way you have interpreted it.
No, hopeful means we have to make sure that sometimes, our problem is very often we trip up in implementation or dilute. That should not happen.
Yeah, I certainly agree. Implementation has been such a big issue. Let me just finish this rating point. Standard & Poor's hasn't done that just yet. And in the hierarchy of rating agencies, it is very well regarded. Would you say that Standard & Poor is behind the curve?
No, I think actually there's a slight, my recollection is I'm not very sure, but I think Standard & Poor gives a little more weight to political considerations. If you see the rating methodology, I think Standard & Poor gives a little more weight. So that may explain the difference.
Okay, but the political part, I thought, is the strongest for India. We are in a state where the legislature is functioning, something we didn't have earlier.
But I would say that they are not strictly comparable. It's not that its rating depends on certain other factors. My recollection is, for instance, one of them gives a lot more weight to fiscal. Let's wait to others.
That is
which
the
one.
standard.
S&P and Moody, I don't remember which one which.
Yeah, it must be S&P because...
But it's interesting to take the rating criteria available on the website.
Yes.
And then you'll be able to see.
Okay.
And what I'm saying is that it is not necessary that they assumed differently, but the weights may be different.
Yes. So what about the problem of growth itself? The expectation is that on November 30th, when we get the second quarter growth, we would have roughed out at that 5.6, 5.7 and gone on to 6 point something. But does it still worry you that the informal sector has been rather badly battered?
Any important changes cannot but be disruptive. How disruptive, how long is the issue. The shorter term, as I said, the shorter term numbers are exaggerated. Apart from that, another reason also, the numbers themselves are undependable in the normal course. Yes. When especially short term GDP, etc., if you know how it is cooked, they have some correlation. Yes. If this is happening, last 10 years, this happened, therefore. So
yes,
the breakdown. What I am saying is the demonetization and GST are such a thing that the methodology on which the GDP calculation is based itself, and that itself makes the dependability of data, reliability of data suspect. So I would not even proceed
on GDP.
On any assumption, except I would look for more anecdotal data.
Okay. No, the point is taken. I think they extrapolate on service tax collections.
Yes.
And now there is no comparison because we have a new tax regime. So, but that problem hits more in the third quarter when...
It will be there in different ways. It depends on the number.
Okay, but your anecdotal feeling is that we are still trapped and we are not able to come out into a higher growth trajectory. We are not even in potential.
But my limited point is, in the last few years, that we have come down in the potential output from 8 to 7, partly because of domestic economic management. It is not entirely explicable by the global crisis. The household financial savings have come down. The investment fiscal deficit is continuing to be high. I think that's where the productivity growth is not evident. Capital formation is not evident. So what I'm saying is, instead of pushing the potential output up, it has gone down, and all of it cannot be explained by global crisis.
No, it can't.
So you have to catch up with something that you lost.
So where do you think the bottleneck is? Is it in power, where power plants are up and not getting consumed? Is it sectoral?
It is. I think part of it is debottlenecking. Part of it is the incomplete projects.
Yes.
So all the incomplete projects added to the situation where the output for even the lower investment output is even lower.
Yes. Oh yes. Yes. Absolutely.
So all these things, once there is a slowdown, they get exaggerated. Even NPAs, when the credit growth is low.
And I'm glad you raised both those issues, NPA and credit growth. In the Litfest, when you spoke about credit growth, there were people making the point that the bond market has stepped in where the banks have stepped out. You said that's a worry.
No, it could be because you have to see, if the banks owe money, that means their balance is under stress.
Yes.
But they have to carry on the activities. If the balance sheets are under stress, in order to carry on the activities, somebody else financed. That risk has been recognized by the bond, has been priced by the bonds.
So you will hope regulators look for bubbles in the bond market or misadventures?
No, that should not be taken as a sign of growth. See, the impression given in the discussion was, you think the growth is stalled, but actually the stock markets are doing well, bond markets are doing. Stock markets can be partly a reflection of the global developments. It's also speculative capital. All over the world is happening. Secondly, as far as the bond market development is concerned, yes, but it may be only replacing a situation where you are assuming the risk also. So don't be sure. I'm not saying there's a problem, but don't be sure.
Sure. Okay, the other point was about NPAs. Now, of course, the big news from the government is that they have announced 2.1 lakh crore of capital. Do you think that that addresses the problem, or do you think it should be preceded or at least accompanied by some reforms?
You want to see, in the actual scheme of things, though you can make an attempt, structurally and historically that can't happen. You see, basically what you are doing is for the sins of the past to ensure that normal activity goes on, you have to put in
capital.
So unless you decide in advance to sell, the moment you have decided to put in capital, you are putting in capital. Whatever conditions you put, you can't put conditions for capital. You are only telling the management to do it. And you have to hope for the best. You can't withdraw the capital, so there is no recourse.
Yes. There is no recourse, but what would you have, at least post facto, the government do
I think
about
I would definitely say that immediately you have to put the capital so that the activity goes on, they should not choke. But if you want things to improve, you should take a view. And that view, as I explained yesterday in the meeting, I'll send you the final version as delivered, more or less as delivered, is that you have to take a view about the presence of public sector banking. It appears not that every time the government is putting in money in a banking sector, where its share is coming down. And why are you doing it?
Okay. Yes, I mean, it does look like citizens' money or taxpayers' money is being used without let or hindrance. But the key reform would be what?
That's where I think you have to take a view about the mix of public sector and private sector.
You would prefer fewer banks, fewer public sector banks?
No. My limited point is why money is locked up, taxpayers. You are paying more. Tell me why you want public sector banks. If you say public sector banks are required for backward areas, then strengthen those banks which are operating in backward areas, if you want some. Okay. My point is, you think also you do the consolidation efficiency. If you want public sector banks to be as efficient as private sector banks and perform exactly like that, then why have a public sector bank? So now you have to design a public sector bank which has a purposive existence, which commands the assistance that are required.
Fair enough.
So that's my point. And then, but I believe that in an overall sense, particularly for conditions, there should be a minimum presence.
There should be minimum.
There should be a minimum. I argued it in my speech. Now you can decide it 30%, 35%, 25%, and you say that will be there. It's fair to the public sector also. There are a number of employees, there are institutions. Tell me, how can an institution prosper for 25 years? Their future is uncertain. 1991 maximum. Imagine any corporate entity whose future is uncertain for 25 years. How can it perform? It's very unfair to public sector bank.
Yes, it is.
As institutions. That is my point.
Okay. But in your book and in your various speeches, you say that both regimes in the past, NDA and UPA, have not shown a penchant for giving up hold on public sector.
It's understandable now. Political economy is one. See, imagine Government of India before 1969, under the constitutional scheme of things, there are no functionaries in the state. How? They are all state government employees are railways and income tax. With one stroke, Mrs. Indira Gandhi extended the presence. See, you understand the nationalization, public sector banks changed the balances between union and state. Second, in those days, not now, in those days, private sector had to depend on banking finance. So the private sector's finance is dependent on the government. Third, the government had the access to resources beyond the budget.
Yes, absolutely.
So these three balances.
So you don't see it changing?
No, now it's different. Actually, yesterday I explained in the speech. What is the difference between 69 and 2000? And how politics could dominate then. Now economics has to dominate the decision making.
So hopefully the market will make
because you can't manage it.
for reforms.
No, because private sector is not at that much of a mercy. Global developments have taken place. And more important, foreign investors have stake in both public sector banks and private sector banks.
Yes, that's true.
And you can't dismiss them either. So it's a new dynamic.
Absolutely. All right, on that positive note, sir, thank you very much for joining us. The message from Dr. Reddy is that market and economy are now grown so much that they might dictate to politics to reform the public sector banks at long last. Thank you very much, sir.